Should we?
Should we?
And in this moment, I swear, we are infinite.
Let's do this! Come on!
Mounting!
It's too damn hot for a penguin to be just walking around.
3, 2, 1, eagle!
Are these two doctors?
I'm afraid so.
And here we go.
And here we go. Simon Cooper,
What an intro.
back in the house, back in the podcast chair. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. More comfy chairs than we have had previously.
It's been a hot minute.
Has.
And I think an ode to the 2020 version of the podcast where you were co-host and King Dick, so to speak.
Wow.
That's the old intro. It's a little bit long for this format, I think.
Yeah.
That was a bit of fun.
Play on.
Sweet memes.
Yeah. Doing it from home in the midst of lockdowns.
Is this more intimate? On a chair next to you,
It's nice
next
to
to
be in
me.
person.
You can hear yourself.
Yeah, I'm getting used to these headphones, but
It's more intimate. We can hear each other breathing and stuff.
wow.
It's glorious. What's been happening? Tell the people you've been heavily requested to get you back on the podcast.
Heavily.
And you're going to be coughing like just the throat clear. Loves the throat clear,
I know.
does Simon Cooper. But you've been heavily requested to get you back on the podcast. So tell the people what's been happening.
Yeah, it has been a hot minute since we've been on the podcast. 2020, what are we, nearly the end of 2022.
Crazy. It's been 2 years.
Yeah. Not in the Virtus sphere.
Well, you're in the sphere.
In the sphere, not in the core of it anymore. Moved into a role with the outdoor education group. Was working within the client delivery space for a while, and so working with schools in Victoria to develop and deliver outdoor ed programs. Which is a big change. It was a tough decision to move away. That was an interesting kind of decision-making process, but ultimately made the decision to move into that area, and then more recently moved into the risk management space.
Head of the Risky Boys.
Head of the Risky Boys.
Hashtag it's not fun unless it's safe.
That's my catchphrase. Whenever I enter a room.
I love it. Obviously I was intimately involved in the decision-making process and kind of seen your growth and the changes you've made over the last couple of years, and very proud of you, by the way. But give us an insight into that decision-making process and what it was like, because effectively you've taken the best job in the world and said no to it, shifted to something else.
Yeah.
But you obviously do a presentation called The Power of Change, which if we get enough thumbs up, we'll present to the Virtus family at some
Bring it
point
back.
again. But change is difficult. Making big life decisions like that don't come along very often. So what went into that decision and how did you make it?
Yeah, it was extremely challenging, and I feel like sometimes I felt that I'd done things in the wrong order. You hear stories about people who have done the corporate thing and then they get sick of it and then they move into their passion and pursue that. And I almost went the other direction and fell into this role and this environment at Virtus where I loved it and I loved the people, and we're able to build something pretty special.
I mean, you fit in really well. Sorry. So to interrupt.
And then, but at the same time, I hadn't explored this other area of business and my own development. So that was what ultimately, prompted the change and prompted the decision to move away and to, expand myself into a business and an environment that I wasn't familiar with and maybe not comfortable with. So the decision-making process was very much around what gaps I saw in my own capacity and capability, and how can I pursue that in an environment that I hadn't experienced before.
What gave you the awareness to explore those gaps? Because it's very easy for a lot of us to put blindsides up around gaps in our capabilities, but you did actively sort out disconfirming information and sort out ways to identify what those biases were, and then you dove straight into it.
Yeah, part of it was drawn from the business studies that I was doing alongside my work at Virtus, and in a different business, in a different environment, you utilize different skill sets and different bases of knowledge. So I guess I wanted to explore some of those things that I wasn't exploring here at Virtus. And the other part of it around my own personal development was, I guess, just not having opportunity to explore areas of myself that were hidden, and also just to, I guess, throw myself into a new challenge. There's always, the work that we were doing at Virtus was meaningful, and there was a lot of space to grow and to develop the team and the organisation. But it's
a different world to what you've shifted into, what the corporate world can tend to be.
Definitely. And, the shift that I made has meant that I've had to learn not just a new skill set, but also learn a completely new industry. And, it means that I'm showing up differently to my work. I'm within a different community now, even though, I'm still heavily involved within the Virtus community, but I'm also, I'm a bit more removed now, and trying to show up at OEG in a way that, I find meaningful, and also figuring that out, what that looks like within a new team and a new role. And, leadership looks different, the work looks different, the processes and systems within the business looks different. So, becoming accustomed to that. And then also, I guess, part of the work that I'm really interested in is developing organizations that are high performing. So trying to look for improvement within the existing business model at OEG, and how can we do better work. So my transition into this new role in the risk management department has meant that, I'm leading a team, and quite a young team and a growing team. So it's meant that, I'm able to kind of lead them in a direction that I'm really passionate about, and empowering them to do work that they really find meaningful and interesting, and ultimately makes a change, or makes a difference in, the broader circles that we work in.
Love that. What were the main few differences that you noticed? And I guess it's been 18 months now since you shifted into that role, or shifted across. That fateful day, April
12th, I think it was.
April 12th, there you go. What were the main differences that you noticed and have noticed over the last 18 months between bigger business developing? There's obviously a lot more factors at play in terms of economic factors and size and shape of a business versus small business like Virtus, where we effectively have control over everything that happens.
Yeah, definitely. And, going into OEG when I did was interesting because we're still in the midst of COVID. So, I moved there in April. July, we shut down all operations. I was working half my hours maybe.
Yeah. Was that hard? Was there a bit of
emotional, damn it?
I was. So,
I had to pander to him because he loves that one.
I do love that one. It's one of my faves. Moving into the organisation for 2 months, and then effectively being at home, working half my hours, trying to, find meaning in the work that I was doing in this new role, and trying to connect with the people in my team and within the organisation was really challenging. And even in normal times, the organisation was a lot bigger, so there's a lot more, that there are more systems at play, and there's, it's a slower moving machine than Virtus, which was small and agile, and we could, as you said, we had control of everything
on the drop of a hat.
Seriously, we could pivot into whatever we wanted. Where, OEG, we're a big organisation, and
How many people for context?
I think we're probably sitting around 400.
400. So, and Virtus has shifted between like the 5 and 14, 15 mark
Yeah.
over the years. So
Yeah.
there's completely different
Yeah.
size and shape and
So it's becoming more. For me, it was becoming accustomed to being a smaller cog in the machine rather than being at the driver's wheel.
Yep.
So that was a little bit. That was had frustrating moments, and waiting for things to happen. But
as per my last email.
email politics.
Yeah. I do not envy that part of the job.
Yeah, but I think also it's another skill.
Yeah.
Learning how to communicate effectively with different stakeholders and people at different levels within the organisation, and externally as well with clients. So
Yep.
I'm excited now that I'm more removed from the external stuff and looking internally and seeing how we can improve processes and systems, and develop the high performing teams that I'm really interested in. So there's a lot of transfer still, from what we were doing at Virtus into this new endeavour and this new pursuit. A lot of the skills, a lot of the, directives, I guess. Well, not even directives, objectives that we had.
Yep.
Still carry over and still give me meaning.
Yeah. What you've used that word a few times, meaning. Like, what does that look like, both in a personal and professional setting for you at the moment? How's that adapted and changed over the last 18 months?
Yeah, I think when I was at Virtus, the meaning was very heavily focused on community and the people within it. And me moving away was, in some parts, it was like a selfish move. I moved away from.
I mean, this place is better when you're in it.
Maybe. The reason I moved was for my own development, and so the meaning kind of shifted away from a collective into more of a self, and that's evolved, and it is evolving, continuing to evolve. As I've transitioned in this new role, the meaning has gone more from me becoming competent and capable at my role into how can we develop a team that is really competent and high performing, and a team of leaders as well. So, developing leadership within the team and within the people that I want to serve, and that the focus, I guess, shifts from the community and the people we want to serve to maybe more insular into a team, and those are the people that I'm serving, as well as, and I've talked a lot about developing team and less about, so that's like the adaptive perspective, and less at like the actual technical part of the role, which is risk management.
Yeah.
So I guess
helmets on, safety gear, high vis, no campsites under trees, etc.
Attaboy.
Yeah. I listen.
Yeah, so I'm still learning all those technical. There's a lot of technical gaps in my knowledge about risk management, especially within the operational risk arena that we operate in.
I guess that's a good place to be. You'd rather be going, you're adaptively capable because of all the work we've done in the past around, changing the business and building our own capacities, whereas the technical stuff, and for those that aren't aware of these two things, basically we look at problems, there's adaptive problems and technical problems, and an adaptive problem is one that doesn't have a clear path to a solution. You have to evolve and adapt to overcome whatever the problem is, and then the technical problem is one that has a clear, step-by-step process to a solution. So, so I think you'd rather be in a space where you need technical advice than need adaptive advice, and being capable of solving adaptive problems is all around your own capacities and your ability to look at a problem, enlist help of your allies, and evolve.
Yeah, for sure. And when we were at Virtus, we always spoke about when we were hiring people, we'd hire people who have leadership capability and ability to communicate well, and
Does everyone have capability of being a leader?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, I think so.
That wasn't a weighted. It wasn't meant to be a weighted question.
It's a good question. Kind of comes back into the, nature versus nurture. Can we develop leadership?
Is leadership a
as a
teachable
skill?
skill?
Yeah. So is leadership a skill or is it a trait? And I think it's probably a bit of both.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, leadership's a lot about willingness and desire, as much as it is around capabilities.
Yep. And then there's technical skill leaders who are very good at one thing. Yep. They're an expert in that technical proficiency. But then there's also, people leaders who are good at empowering others and giving them the abilities and skills to lead.
What kind of leader is Simon Cooper?
I'm definitely not very good at anything.
Shut up.
I'm okay at a lot of things, but not very good at. No,
Stop being self-deprecating.
I definitely self-identify as a generalist.
There is so much potential in you.
Sounds like potential.
Sorry. Bit of Ted Lasso. Get around him.
I am a self-identified generalist and proud to be a generalist. I think that might come back to also my inability to know exactly what I wanted to do growing up. So, and one of the considerations that I had when moving into this new role was, do I want to become a risk manager or like a risk person? But again, the considerations for me were, are the skills transferable to different industries, to different organizations? And will the role itself, will it force me to grow in my force me to grow my container to be a leader and to step into leadership, and I guess grow some of those softer skills, adaptive skills, which I think it will. And I'm only, this is 4 weeks, so a month.
A month is head of the Risky Boys.
So yeah, I'm excited to see where this leads and, the change that we can make within the organisation.
Yeah, you mentioned transferable skills. Like, what transferable skills have you been able to utilise from your travels? Because obviously you spent some time in the UK, which is a fairly important part of the story. You shifted into doing, what was your master's called?
Master of Business.
So it was just a Master of Business.
Mm-hmm.
Master of Business into working at Virtus. How and what skills and how have you been able to transfer those to what you're doing now? Because they are, you kind of, there's similarities, but what you're doing is very different.
Yeah. I think, again, there's adaptive skills and technical skills. If we generally bundle them into the two categories, then, the technical skills would be looking like project management, which is what I actually specialised in my degree.
Yep.
So that skill set is definitely transferable between, any industry, any organisation. You use your ability to manage projects. Mm-hmm. And then interpersonal skills, communication, ability to communicate effectively.
What have you learned about communication since shifting into this role? Because one of the things that we're very fortunate with Virtus is everyone that is in this environment wants to be here and is here for a particular reason. There's some clear self-actualization that they're trying to achieve. So relatively easy to communicate with and to help lead towards the result they're after. What did you learn about communication? And this is something that we've worked on a lot over the last few years. What's something you learned about communication moving into these couple of roles that you've been in OEG? Yeah,
it's an interesting question. I think communication is very context-driven. So the context of Virtus is very different to OEG, particularly because it's a bigger organisation, there's, I guess, layers of hierarchy. So, there's executives, then there's, heads and senior managers. So being able to deliver messages in an effective way to more senior people.
Yep.
But also then transferring that message to people who maybe working out in the field. And there's different types of people in this organisation. You know, there's business people. There's business people who look after the finances and the accounting and the HR, people and culture.
Yeah.
And then there's also, but we're an outdoor education organisation, so there's a lot of outdoor edders who, you know, have grown up in the field leading groups in the outdoors.
Yeah.
And there's nuances with that, and there's a different language and there's a different tone. So there's definitely dissonance between the two. And one of the challenges has been, and will continue to be, trying to meet in the middle and deliver messages in a way that is tailored to the different types of people in the organisation.
Yeah.
So, like for example, the field team would rarely check their emails. So there's no point in sending out a group email to people who, you know, they're out of reception for 5 days of the week.
Yep.
So looking at different modes or methods of communication has been really important. And then I guess within my realm, which is now the risk team that is based out of the head office in Burwood, we are still figuring out how to best communicate our messages to people, because we look at the whole organisation, and we also look at, we're a national organisation, so we are based in different states. So, and the way that, you know, people operate over in Western Australia is different to how we operate in Victoria. So, that's my alarm to drink water.
Well, this is a perfect opportunity.
It's clean. It's cold. And that's what I call high quality H2O.
Great timing.
Yeah. There's a button for it and everything.
Mate, I got buttons for everything. Actually, that's not true. I've only got 8 buttons, and we've used 5.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, communication is a universal skill. It's one that is very context driven. There's principles that you come back to, regardless of context. But there's definitely nuance to it, and you know, you have to be emotionally intelligent enough to be able to communicate well with others.
You mentioned before about specialists versus generalists, and that you're leaning into being a generalist. What does that look like, and how did you build the self-awareness to go, you know what, I don't necessarily want to or feel like it's going to serve me to specialise in something right now?
I just don't think I really ever cared enough about one thing to dive deep enough into it to become a specialist.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about it a bit lately because I'm reading a book called Range by David Epstein.
Shout out.
Which
Dave,
is
if you're listening, keep writing good things.
About generalists versus specialists. And it definitely makes the case. It's biased, well, not biased, but the findings in the book lend itself to being a generalist. Yep. There's more kind of carryover and transferable skills, and I think for myself, never cared enough about a single thing.
Yep.
I have a lot of interests, so you know, dipping my toes into lots of different things and seeing how I can apply them to my real world problems, and finding that, you know, having all those different interests will enable me to problem solve better.
Yeah. It gives you more tools in your toolbox, gives you more experiential learning, it gives you more opportunities to look at the world from through different lenses to then better solve problems, better communicate, better connect.
For sure.
Do you find that it because to give you some context, I literally just sat down with a bunch of the interns and talked through behaviour change and talked about values and self-awareness and the understanding of how to make good decisions and things like that. Do you think there are times where you'll need to lean into being a specialist in certain things, or is it just that, you know, almost like you lean into learning enough about a thing to best make decisions and you can move on to the next thing?
Yeah, I think for me it's having enough knowledge to get by. So if we use my current situation as an example, where I'm in this risk management role, so I'm going to have a base level of knowledge about the principles or the foundations of risk management.
Yeah.
And pair that with the knowledge that I have of the organisation and of outdoor education. And again, outdoor education, not my background. So I'm coming in as a person with this skill set, this generalist knowledge, coming into an organisation and having to level up in the context-specific knowledge, but then also having a team of people around me who are specialists.
Yeah.
They're the there's people in my team who have been working in risk management for years or have a really deep understanding of experiential outdoor learning. So they're the ones that I'll defer to
Yeah.
when I don't have that knowledge. And then my role is, empowering them or enabling them to do their job really well, or giving them the tools that they need to do their job really well.
You're almost the conduit to goodness,
Yeah.
the human glue to connect and
The
distribute
human glue.
the human glue.
The human glue stick. That's what you can call me.
Nah, you'd be more like, what was that glue we used in primary school? Was it called Clag?
Clag.
How's that for a flashback? Do you reckon it still exists?
Surely
Still remember
primary school,
Billy
kindergartens have
Billy
Clag.
Madison, where Miss Slippy's just sitting there like looking at Clag.
Yes. Gross.
Yeah, a little gross. So what is the, now that you're kind of shifting into that risk management role, what are your growth areas, both personally and professionally, that you're looking to level up to continue to be able to contribute not only to your team but then also to the world?
Yeah, I think the risk management knowledge, I'm looking forward to upskilling in that and learning more about the base principles of risk management, as well as the specific nuances that come with operational risk within the outdoor ed space.
Yep.
And I guess also thinking about how that will transfer to future roles or future organisations. And then I'm really passionate and really interested in, and again, building the team into this high performance machine, which is a desirable place to work within the organisation. We're creating our own culture within the team. And I guess also it's because it's a fairly new team in terms of people coming in, and there's been a bit of coming and going. So figuring out how we work best together, what are our principles and our values that we will kind of use as a base to then expand into the organisation and I guess increase OEG's risk maturity, and through that, one of our projects will be around education and building up the education of the field teams, risk management. And so essentially I want to make ourselves redundant in the space.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What are the frameworks, or what are the resources that you're like leaning on to build that team and to build that team cohesiveness? Because I guess from my perspective, I love the nuance and the context generation that you need to build a team and to create team cohesiveness and to effectively get a group of people with maybe shared interests or shared understanding, all paddling in the right direction. Like that fascinates me, being part of sporting teams and being part of Virtus here and being part of community. They're all iterations of team. So yeah, what are the things that you're doing and have lent on to help build that and ensure that it's going to be successful long term?
Yeah, it's a good question, because there are so many resources and so many people and books and things and frameworks out there that you can lean on, and it's almost just picking one and rolling with it, committing to it.
And culture can be so ambiguous, right? I want to build culture. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, and that's, we will, as a team, we will start from that question, like, what do we want? What's our mission for the team? What does winning look like for us? Questions that, that you and I have used in the past at Virtus, and that we've learnt from our mentors and coaches in the past. So, I used some questions in a conversation the other day that came from Cam Schwab.
What does winning look like? How we know?
Yep. And, what does this role expect of me? What do I expect of the role? So it's almost just me figuring out how I want to show up in my work and in my team. Taking bits of inspiration from different mentors that I've had in the past, or books, or frameworks, and then kind of not just using one, but taking inspiration from all of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's phenomenal, like, lesson to be and for you to be able to share with your team, and then for everyone listening to be able to go, well, everything I learn, no matter what I'm doing, is a usable skill for down the track, right? Like, how long ago did we go to that Cam Schwab presentation? And obviously we get his emails and stuff, but it would have been 3 or 5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, 2018 probably.
Yeah, so we're looking on 4 years now. And like, his bookmark's still up on the wall over there. And I look at that, and there's still something I come back to, but there's almost hundreds of tools that we now have in our toolbox to be able to go, all right, well, this is what fits in this situation. And one of my most overused sentences is, you need to read this book, or like, this book articulates this brilliantly. But how do you package all of those things or how do you order them so you can lean on them when you need to?
Yeah, and this is probably a challenge of mine that I've had in trying to filter through what I really want to focus on and what I want to use. A bit of journaling has helped, and putting my thoughts on paper to try to identify what my problem is. On and off, not really. It's something that I have been meaning to revisit. I've been meditating a bit.
Attaboy. What does your meditation practice look like at the moment?
I use an app called Balance.
Good.
Which I think you posted about a while ago.
I used it about 6 times. I haven't touched it since, but it goes for 3 years, so get around them.
I was using it as initially, if this is a few weeks ago, I was using it as a tool to get to sleep, because I was struggling to get good sleep. So I was using it as a tool to get to sleep, and then since I've been just doing daily meditations, 10, 15 minutes, not long, but it's enough time for me to clear my head a little bit, and then I find that when I come back to the task, it enables me to filter things and focus more easily. So that's been really useful. And it's coming back to, I guess, questions. I find that I was thinking about this the other day around what I want to be known for, and I want to be known as someone who asks really good questions. So in the work that I'm doing, I'm trying to think, what are the best questions that I can ask myself and my team that will help to inform the direction that we want to go in and how we want to be as a team. So, and through the journaling that I've done over the past few years and all the development work that we've done, questions from Cara Miller and Logan Gilbrick, they have definitely helped inform me. Questions like, what does winning look like for the team? What does it feel like to be a part of the team?
That's a good question.
How do we want to be useful? To others?
What do you need but don't have?
What do we need but don't have? Yep.
So what constitutes a good question? So if you could build a framework into asking good questions, the Simon Cooper question framework, what would it look like?
That is a great question.
Tick.
I think what constitutes a good question is something that addresses a core belief or value, something that uncovers that and maybe shines a spotlight on it and brings it into question, or and again, questions are context specific. So if I'm asking, how can I be useful? That's a silly question unless it's directed in a specific context.
I think questions can be context specific, but they don't always have to be, right? Like,
sure.
If you ask someone the question of what do you need but don't have, context, like avoiding context, it's a great way to build self-awareness and to build understanding around who you are and what you need. So you can ask someone that and they can say, oh, I need a rest, or I need I need some food, or I need to train, or I need to build some consistency, or I need some sleep. Then it kind of takes the work lens out, or it takes the training lens out, or it takes you away from a particular point in life. All right, what do you need that you don't have? And it allows you to almost figure out what's most important. And we talked about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs before, and if the answer is, well, I need food on the table, then we're probably not going to be able to spend much time building questions around self-actualization, when really all we need is safety and security.
For sure.
So, I think context is really important when we're trying to elicit a specific result. But if we're trying to build awareness, it's almost like context can put blinders on.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think questions help to unpeel layers.
Like an ogre?
Like an onion or an ogre?
Both. Little column A, little column B.
I think a good question can be something that, well, a question is not often in isolation, right? Like it's then followed up by an additional question. So, I think it's a concept within human-centered thinking or design thinking about like the 5 whys. So you ask a question, why? Why are you doing this? Or why does this matter? Whatever. And then you ask the why 5 times, and it kind of unpeels layers and gets deeper and deeper to the core reason or belief that you're trying to examine. So the question about, what do you need? That will often bring up the first thought or the first need that someone has. But then if you follow up with additional questions, then you can get deeper, and there might be a hidden desire or hidden belief that is the thing. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like we could almost ask you those questions about why you shifted from small business to corporate, right? It's like, well, you wanted to see what the corporate world was like. Is like the first layer, and see if I can let's see if I can peel back some layers for you. Second layer is to be able to grow and discover who you are and what you need. And then third one is to build your capacity outside of that. What would the next layer be?
Yeah. So then why do I want to have that capacity?
Yeah.
To, show up to the people that I love and in a way that is true and meaningful and useful.
Why do you want to show up to the people you love in a way that's useful and meaningful?
Because that is something that I value and believe in, I guess. And that's probably a value of mine, connection to people and
inherently
community.
All layers removed, it makes the world a better place. And it makes your world a better place.
Yeah. And that's also, a question, that's a process that we've followed in the past to uncover values.
Values, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Why? If this, then what? If this, then what? Yeah. And you peel back. Yeah, we spoke about values a fair bit with the interns before, and I think one of the most impactful things you can do as a human being to uncover meaning and uncover purpose is to get really clear on what your values are, because then every decision you make, every question you ask yourself, almost every action you take can be guided by the things that you value most and that are most important to you.
Sure.
Have your values changed or evolved over the last 18 months?
Definitely. And I was actually just thinking of you when you were saying that, because you've gone through over the last 3 or 4 years an evolution of your identity in your life, right? Becoming a dad, and the business has evolved, and your identity as an athlete has changed, and
Still holding on to it.
forever. And I'm the same, like I'm going to be a father in
Cat's out of the bag.
4 months.
Maybe Facundo.
4 months exactly today.
Yeah? That's so exciting.
How's that?
That's crazy.
So, and my identity will shift. It will definitely shift over the next 6 to 12 months.
It's such a weird change, man.
So,
I'm so excited to watch you go through it.
Yeah, I am as well. And I'm excited to see, Sally Ann evolve into a mother, and, she's going to be elite at it. So, my values and our values will change. I'm sure that I will value family a lot more. And like I said before, connection is such an important thing to me, and that's a strong value. And, service is a really strong value of mine. I want to be in service to others and to my community and to people. So my idea of service will shift. It was going to shift from, service to my work and to the broader community, and it will. I'm sure it will contract to service to my unborn child.
So one little potato.
Yeah, to Sally Ann. So
yeah.
So I'm excited to see how it will evolve and change.
Yeah.
And it will be an interesting, introspection to go through in another 6 months.
It is such a big change, and it's such a big shift. And I don't think that we as men, as dads, talk about it enough, and talk about what impact it has on our identity and on our value system and on our belief system. Because I've seen how, and this is with my own biases and with my blinkers on, but I've seen how my thoughts and beliefs and values have adapted and changed over the last few years. But I don't think being a dad has necessarily changed me. It's just shifted my focus to certain things, and it's kind of elevated the importance of certain parts of my life, and priority shift, right? So that's a big change. So when you talk to me about the process of you finding out you're a dad, and what those few days were like from a from headspace perspective, and from a thoughts, beliefs, what did it do to you initially?
Yeah, I think there was no light bulb or lightning strike moment.
Yeah. People talk about that, and I haven't felt that at all in any way. It's just it's almost like you're building layers of love and connection and stuff. Yeah.
And, with Sal and I, we've been ready for this for a while, and it's a very natural evolution of our relationship. And, we've been together for so long now, and when we were married, and that shift has probably been bigger. The experience that I've had shifting from a partner or a boyfriend to a husband has been pretty significant. And, with Sal and I have talked about this, and, it's much more meaningful that it's just a word or a title, or title of husband. But it is so meaningful to both of us, and it is so much more. It's so powerful in how we show up to one another now, and so the natural evolution of us falling pregnant and sort of shifting our focus to being parents has been really natural, and we're just super excited and stoked to have.
You've had a little bit of practice with your first child.
Baby Henry, he's 1 now.
Oh, Banks turned 2 the other day, and I didn't celebrate her birthday.
Sal still wants to go to go to the puppy cafe and have a little cake for Henry.
Maybe I'll take Banksy too. Just get around there for a birthday. It's her world. We're just living in it.
That's it. Henry's he's a good boy.
Prior to finding out that you guys were pregnant to now, has your concept or thought process around being a dad changed? And obviously, this is a question that we can ask you in 6 months when you've got a little potato rolling around.
Not really. I think.
Does it feel real yet? Does it feel like it's happening?
I don't think so. I mean, we're over halfway now, so and Sal is going through a lot of changes with her body, and it's like amazing what the female body can do. In awe of that.
Yeah.
And I think, trying to show up to Sal in a way that is supportive and, empathetic of what she's experiencing. That's probably the more important piece. That's probably the piece that's taken over more from me thinking about being a dad.
Yeah.
So that's probably the identity that I identify with at the moment is, being a husband and showing up for Sal.
Yeah. It's like, and I asked that question with my own bias of going, well, to be honest, when KP was pregnant with Luce, like nothing changed for me really. And as guys, we kind of don't get to experience anything outside of the support and the connection that we have with our partner. And it kind of takes, I remember a friend saying to me like, I didn't really connect properly with my daughter until like 6-10 months old when she could start to talk back or interact and things like that. And I never really understood what he meant. But when we had Lucy, like I felt like that connection straight away, but it wasn't like you are the center of my world, like you are everything and nothing else matters. It was just kind of like a love that is built and built with interaction and experience and connection over the time. And
how has that experience been different to Billy? Has it been different?
Yeah, it's definitely been different. It's like I definitely feel like well, I've known Lucy longer, so I like her more, clearly.
Favorite?
No, but there's generally those moments where KP like will definitely highlight it when I do something that's like Lucy focused first and Billy second. But like as a fairly like the way I connect with the girls is like through like chatting and cuddles and playing and all those kind of things. And Billy's growing into that now, and you see like now I can go home and she's face lights up and she like waddles her way down and gives me a cuddle and it's like Dad, and, like she's not speaking yet, like really apart from like a few words. Says taco. It's pretty cute, but it's definitely different because like there's been more time and experience and connection with Luce. And it kind of, because like we're done with 2, and it kind of makes me more like I don't want to wish the time away, but it just gets better as they get older. For my experience, like some parents are just like, I love the baby stage, but for me, I'm just like pooey nappies and a potato that doesn't do anything. Like, come on, just give me some interaction. So I'm feeling that build now with Billy as she's just turned 1. So, like I feel like we're developing our relationship more now that we can actually interact. And I know like talking to KP, there was definitely that connection with them both early on because they spend so much time with her feeding and all of those kind of things as well. So,
and your relationship is going to naturally just be different from KP's because of that connection that a mother has with their child.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I'm like the biggest softie in the world. So like Lucy wants something like
True.
I am definitely the
rubber arms.
Yeah, oh mate, I need to work at it because she'll be like, Daddy, I'm hungry. I'm like, there's no food in here, and she'll be like, there's lollies in your drawer, and I'll be like, nah, I ate them, and she'll like walk over the drawer and see, I told you, and I'll be like, all right, let's go have something else. But it's like I'm genuinely rubber arms with her, and that's something that I don't want to just enable that as I go, and there's I don't want to be that. Like, as parents, I think it's important not to be friends with your child. You've still got to be a parent. And that parent first, friend second, if that makes sense. Like, so yeah, I'm fascinated as how to look future as how that relationship will evolve now that I've got the two girls that both have their own personalities and have their own way of communicating with me and with us and things like that. Like, you know, Lucy jumping on the podcast has basically been our
It's been the highlight of the year for everyone.
our highlight from a content creation for a long time. And people are like, I'm literally getting messages like, we need more Lucy podcasts. And I'm like, do I just say, hey, Lucy, you're a podcast now, we're going to do one a week? But she's literally like, Daddy. I'm like, yes, Lucy. She's like, can I do another podcast? And like seeing her like almost like thrive in that environment where she sits in this chair and she's just like, can we talk about trees? I'm like, sure, let's talk about trees.
Sure thing.
And just to watch her little brain
Take over,
I don't know. It's I've been kind of the way I've been talking about parenting lately. It's like the biggest oxymoron in the world because it's like the most wonderful, amazing, incredible thing, but it's so hard and draining and difficult at the same time.
Yep.
And I think I've spoken about this on the podcast. Just my focus for the next 4 years is just hang out with the girls as much as possible. And to build those connections and to, you know, just got to ride the wave in terms of like difficulties and things like that. Like one of my mates, I remember him catching up with him one day. He's got 2 kids as well. He's a couple of years ahead of me, but he just said, he goes, dude, like, was sitting there last night and I had a crying baby in my arms. We had his wife was like sitting on the ground, like leaning against his leg, crying and screaming kid in her arms. And he's just like, what have we done? And I remember hearing that being like, fuck, that sounds horrible. But like, even when you have those moments, it sucks and it's hard, but you're like, this is so wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, it's the contradiction of parenting is just so strange, and it's just unlike anything you experience. So yeah, I'm hanging out for you and you and Sal to experience that.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole new thing for us, and you know, like I said, we're both super excited, and not just for like the immediate challenge of having a child, but also just building a family and, you know, continuing to build our community around family and, you know, being able to, I guess, a lot of our friends have now have children. Not all of them, but a bunch of our friends do. So, you know, having that.
It's weird to shift to that part of our life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super strange. But also, like, it makes total sense. And, you know, it's just the natural evolution of life.
How do you feel about following the natural evolution, right? like I was always very resistant to it. Kind of, you know, you go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have a kid, you buy a house, you have a kid, you know, you hang out with them for 30 years and you die. Like, I always was resistant to that that view of life and progress and things like that.
Yep.
But in a nutshell, that's the human condition. So, how do you view that now that you're?
Yeah, I think like part of me wants to rebel against it and just not be another like part of the rat race, so to speak. But also like I just can't wait to be a dad, and I can't wait to like have a home. Have a home. We're house hunting at the moment as well, so having a home where we can make our own and like that can be our space to grow into, and I am all for it. Like I've wanted to be a dad for you know, I've always loved kids and, you know, looked to be a dad one day, and so now that it's here, it's like like that's just
natural progression. Yeah. And I think you have the awareness. I guess we both worked on it a lot over the last few years to kind of get really clear on why we're doing these things and what it actually looks like, and not following that natural process blindly. It's we're following it with open eyes, full heart, clear eyes, can't lose.
Strong back. And you know, I don't feel like I've missed out on anything by like now settling down, so to speak. I think like we've travelled and we've lived and we've had peak experiences. So I mean, there's always more travel to do.
New kind of peak experiences. Yeah, there's an infinite amount of places you can visit, but it's like what adventure. The quote, like, you can have anything you want, but not everything you want. Like, make your decision, get on with it. Like now you guys have made the decision to settle down, start a family, and it doesn't mean you won't be able to do those other things. It just means for now, you know, like if I go, hey KP, I'm going to Japan for a few weeks in Feb just to jump on a snowboard, it's like I can't really do that.
Not anymore.
KP, if I can, just let me know.
Just dropping hints out.
But I guess it's just that, like, well, I'd love to do that, but also I would love to spend 2 weeks with the girls more.
Yeah, totally.
And it doesn't mean I don't want to do that, but it means that we almost have to be content with the decisions we've made that have led to our current.
Yeah, and it's all just part of like decision making and motivation around why we make decisions.
Yeah.
We see people who are overseas now, and like we have friends who are over there, and like, it'd be wonderful to be in Turkey right now.
Yeah. Just sitting in France drinking wine.
Totally.
Like,
but also like
I love baguettes.
baguette.
Baguette. Oh.
But also like the challenges that are right in front of us are like they're incredibly motivating and meaningful to us, and you know we wouldn't want to be anywhere other than with our girls and with the work that we find challenging and meaningful, and with our.
I always look at lately. I've looked at parenting like it's like I'm a big movie buff. I love movies. I love cinema, and when you watch a movie where you're like everyone needs to see this movie, like, and you talk to people that haven't seen the movie or read the book or whatever, and you're just like, you need to do this. It's life changing. Parenting is just like watching the best movie on earth and being like, hurry up and have kids. Everyone's the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm excited for you to see that movie.
Me too. 5 stars?
It's 5 stars, but there's some heartbreak in there. There are like some character arcs.
It's a roller coaster.
A lot of growth and development. It's like an emotional roller coaster. It's like an emotional ride of some sort.
Love it. Yeah, it's tasty. I'm excited.
Outside of being a dad, is there, and we'll wrap this up in the next minute or two, but is there anything that you're actively excited for outside being a dad and outside being head of the Risky Boys? Being King Risk, Chief Risk, Captain Risk, worst superhero ever.
Yeah, maybe. There has been a lot of movement in and I say Sally and my life in the last 6 months even. We're house hunting. I've transitioned to this new role.
3931, mate. Lock yourself in.
Yeah, maybe. It would be nice to walk straight here. Wouldn't it? So I'm very excited for those things. For the house to happen and for us to start our family, and then, for me to settle into this new work space and, start uncovering some new challenges and new problems to solve. I think I want to do something hard.
Ooh.
So there's we've spoken about this.
we're signing up or what?
The 50k trail run in February. I'll have a 4-week-old then, so hopefully my sleep won't completely go off a ledge. I think I want to sign up. I think I want to do it.
If you do it, I'll do it. How about that?
I'm excited. I just want to have something physically demanding that I can
bit of resilience.
Put my focus into.
Resilience training. Yeah. Something to give you a little bit of a nudge, bit of positive pressure, bit of accountability, because if I do it, if you do it, I do it.
Yeah. The ice baths that we've got here at Virtus have been brilliant. I've been leaning into that pretty heavily. I guess my physical well-being has been a little bit of a focus as well. I mentioned trying to get my sleep under control, which has been a focus. Been trying to drink a lot of H2O.
I'm not pressing it again.
No, that's fair. So having the base, we talk about
capacity a lot and being capable of doing things that you want to do and not having physical limitations on that because you haven't been looking after yourself.
For sure. And, the more physically capable I am, the more capable I am to show up as a dad and in my work. And so I've been trying to
build the father figure rather than the dad bod.
Make a sticker?
Make a sticker. I'll make some stickers.
So that has been a little bit of a focus. Trying to build that capacity again because my training's fallen off a ledge. So I'm trying to build some consistency there, trying to expose myself to some hot and cold stimulus to build that resilience as well as, the health benefits that come with those things. Drink lots of water, trying to eat some good food.
Stuff that you should be doing that you haven't been.
Exactly. It's the things that, they're the first things to fall away when you get busy or when you start to...
It's a nice reminder that the answer isn't some, crazy concoction or some
for sure.
magic bullet. It's just like simple shit.
Yeah.
Do the simple things well.
Yeah. And that's where the transferability comes through because I'm super grateful that I've got this background and understanding of well-being. So it enables me to, show up in the world that I am in now with this, base level capacity to do things.
So, man, that's all it was all about.
Yeah.
Little observation is the last podcast that I did by myself was with Ed, good friend of ours.
Love that guy.
And the conversation with Ed was around his progression from corporate job to like small business and building his own thing. And you're like, I was just thinking about it then, like your journey has been effectively flip of that. And I think it's really cool to be able to look at you both and look, you've both done it because you're following what you value and you're challenging yourself and you're looking at long-term growth and you're playing long-term games. It's like an infinite game for both of you, but you've done it backwards. And I think it's a nice reminder that there is no path.
Totally.
The path is made by walking.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Like that. And if we're for those listening who maybe aren't doing what they want to do or aren't content and love and fulfilled in what they're doing, like there is power in change. Some of my best work there. One more question before we finish up. Is it true that you have to risk it to get the biscuit?
Depends how tasty the biscuit is.
And on that note, Simon Cooper, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, mate.
Have a good day.